sent in by passport in one hand, so we're going to be trying to recreate something bright and vibrant. So let's get over to their Instagram. I'll show you their feed, so go give them a follow down in the description. I'll put all their links down there, guys. So as we come down and check out their style, you can see it's very warm, so we're going to add some warmth to the highlights, and then we're going to make sure our skin tones pop out a lot, and we need a good fade to those blacks and shadows. So we're going to be bringing up the black point, and if we keep going, you can see there's a nice crispness to the images, so we're going to bring up the clarity, and yeah, as you can see, those reds and oranges pop out of the image a lot. So if we come down, I'll show you the image we'll be working with, this one right here. So making certain colors pop a lot, bringing up the shadows to get that vibrant, warm feeling to the image. And then if you guys really like their style, I recommend going and checking out their presets. So if you want heaps of presets all in the style, if you love their style, come over here. I'll be linking it first in the description for you guys. Come over here, check out their presets, buy presets now, and then you can come over here and check out some before and afters. And this is their new set right here, their vintage preset pack. So come over here, check out heaps of before and afters, see what you guys like, and yeah, definitely recommend if you like want a complete set of presets in their style. So yeah, let's get into this tutorial, guys. Let's go back to their Instagram, and I've actually got the settings for the image we'll be working with today. So if we just go back to that, this image right here, so it was shot on a Sony A7 Mark II, and as for the lens, it was a Sigma 24mm, and settings, so it's shot at 1.4, and then that's gonna allow heaps of light in, and it's gonna give a little bit of depth of field to that image. Not heaps, because it's nice and wide at 24mm, you're not gonna get a real shallow depth of field. A shutter speed of 200, and then ISO 50, so you don't need a high ISO at all if you're shooting at 1.4. So yeah, let's get into this one, guys. Edit, as you can see, here's the raw unedited image, and then the edited one from their Instagram. So first things first, let's enable profile corrections. So they shot this at 1.4, so generally that means you're going to have a bit more of a vignette on your lens. So you can see that really brightens up the image and straightens out any distortion there. So first things first, let's up the exposure to get us kind of close to where we need to be, and then we'll fine tune it with everything down here. Let's bring up the exposure. Okay, we need more contrast, we need darker blacks, so let's bring down the blacks a bit. Well, let's bring them down a lot, because what I can already see is there's a fade in those blacks. So it just takes practice to notice these sort of things, but there's a lift to those blacks there. If I quickly show you, we're going to do something like this in the curves, and hopefully you can see there's this light layer on top of the black, sort of. It takes a bit of practice to notice, but we're going to be doing something like that in the curves. I'll just do it really roughly, so that's a very general S-curve with a fade. If we come back up here, okay, we want to make this image feel nice and bright and vibrant, so you almost always want to bring up the shadows when you're trying to achieve that look. So let's bring that up lots. But when you do that, you sometimes it will brighten your blacks as well. We want to keep our blacks nice and dark, so let's bring them down some more. Let's add a little bit of contrast to the entire image. And we also, to make this image feel bright and vibrant, we also want to bring up the whites to create that pop. And then something I see all the time in editing is dropping the highlights, and it sort of gets rid of the the harsh glare and almost adds so much more detail back into the image. So I see this quite a lot, and we'll just drop that quite a bit. White can stay there, and I think we are good. Right, we'll do the tone curve now. I'll do it and then I'll explain what I've done to the tone curve. So I'll just fine tune it. Okay, so that's the tone curve done. I just fine tuned it a bit. So if you watch what happens to the blacks if I bring this point down, so we're trying to add in a fade, you can see how they go very harsh, but when I lift it, it's almost, I'm not sure how to describe it, but there's a fade to those blacks now. And then we had to bring down this point, the shadows, because otherwise the entire shadows and blacks look too faded. So we just want to keep some contrast in the shadows by bringing that down, but then we want to keep some fade in the blacks by keeping this point up. And then a slight lift to the midtones, or pretty much bang right in the middle, and ever so slightly bringing up the highlights, and that will give just a bit of a pop to the image. Something that someone might do to this edit is create a flatness to the whites. So by bringing down the whites here, you could create a fade to the highlights. So you'd probably want to bring that point and that point down. That's quite a common thing to do, but I'll just undo that. Right, so further into the colors, we've obviously got quite saturated tones. I'll just bring them up. And while we're up here, we need to add in clarity. So clarity, if you see a really crispy looking image, it's kind of bringing down the clarity will give a real smooth texture. Bringing up the clarity will add like crispiness, a bit of sharpness, and yeah, sometimes it can create a bit more contrast in the image. We'll leave it there. Let's come all the way down to calibration to start with our colors. Now, this is a very common thing I see, is shifting the red primary towards the oranges. So I'll go that far. We'll do a bit of a saturation boost, and you can pretty much achieve everything in the HSL that you can down here, so don't worry about it too much. Calibration just shifts a lot of colors at one time. We'll bring down the saturation of these tones. So this is kind of the yellows and oranges a bit. So we'll drop that. And then we'll drop the blue. You can see how that will add in greens and yellows. We want teals and blue, teal and reds. Go this direction. Then we'll just drop saturation, and we are pretty good there. So while we're down here, we'll add in a little bit of grain, so just a tiny bit, just for a bit of texture to the image. Right, back up to split toning. So maybe not overly noticeable in this edit, but we want to add a little bit of blue to the shadows, and reasoning for that is we're gonna add warmth into the highlights. We want to create a nice vibrant feeling to this edit, so let's add some warmth into the highlights. And sometimes that can make your image look too warm. It can make it just not seem quite right. So what you do is put the opposite color, which is a teal. Orange is up here, teal is over here, they're opposite. So we'll put the opposite in the shadows, and that will balance that out and just create the correct contrast, if you know what I mean. Make it look a bit more natural. And you can see how that really balances out the photo. You might think bring it all the way up here, but I'm just going to keep it here, because if you bring the blues up heaps in the shadows, you can see it takes out those yellows. We sort of don't want as many yellows, but I'll do that in the HSL. There's before and after split toning. Pretty subtle there. If we just go before and after of calibration, you can see we're really bringing out those reds, taking out a few greens and yellows. Okay. HSL will fine tune some of these colors. So the main thing I see is like these yellows up here and on the wall. We need to take out that saturation. So watch what happens when I drop the yellows. And what that does is it just isolates the skin tones, makes the skin tones really pop out of the image because you're taking away all the other colors. Same for the greens. So we've got some greens over here. It's really dropped them. They need to be dropped a lot. And the greens need to have a real shine to them. So as you can see, yeah, we just need to really up some in the back there. We need to brighten them a lot. So let's bring them up. And so the yellows, as I said before, are affecting the walls and like a lot of these white areas. So we're also trying to create a real vibrant and bright look to our image. So bringing up the brightness of the yellows will really, really help that, because yellow is like affecting all the bright areas of the image. You know, like lights, and the sun is hitting the edges of everything. So if you bring up the brightness of the yellows, it can create a real vibrance and pop and warmth to your image. We'll bring that up. And then we want these deep skin tones. So we'll drop the reds just a little, create a deepness to those reds. And then it's by doing that, you're creating color contrast between like these bright yellows, deep reds. Right. Saturation. Let's drop these oranges. You can see our skin tones are a bit too much at the moment. Let's drop the reds a little. And then aquas, so just the jeans and that picture back there. Blues will also affect the aquas as well. Just play with the blues. Let's just both bring them down. Purples, I always like to bring purples and magentas down quite a bit. They're not very often in the image, so you want to at least bring them down in line with everything else. Hue, so we'll just try to fine tune our colors exactly now. So I think our reds, if you look, say, at the glasses right there, maybe that's a good sign, or even those flowers back there. Yeah, they're easy things to look at. Maybe these lamp poles. Our reds look a little too red. I think they look a little more on the orange side. So we'll shift the reds towards an orange just a little. The oranges, so that's a bit more of the skin tone. You can see how the reds don't affect the skin tone too much. They do a bit, but not as much as the oranges. So we're going to move these a little towards the red. The yellows we're going to warm up, so we're going to shift them towards an orange. I'm going to bring up this, it's going to bring up the saturation of everything. I think we're okay. Right, these oranges we're going to warm up. You can see going towards the green, we don't want that. We want a nice warm color to our oranges, yellows, and then overall that's going to give the image a lot more warmth. We'll go with that. Greens can also go a touch more warm by shifting them towards the yellows. And a bit more teals to our aquas and blues. It's not looking too bad. And then quite often there are no magentas or purples in the image, but I shift them towards the reds and the purples towards the reds as well, because sometimes purples and magentas can appear in skin tones, and when they do in some images, it can look quite bad if they're like a purple. It looks much better as a red. So go that direction a little, especially to the magenta. Magenta is quite often in the shadows of skin tones. Okay, so for sharpening, we'll bring sharpening up quite a lot. So let's bring it up here. Yeah, I think we're about good. Let's do some vignettes and things like that. So if we come up here to filters, now these are already placed for the purpose of these tutorials to speed things up. So we want to brighten our subjects now, like make them stand out. So as you can see, we're affecting the inside of our circle. Let's bring up the exposure. And like I was accounting for this throughout the entire edit, like I was sort of using the background as more of a gauge of how bright I should make things, because I knew later I'd come in with brushes and filters to brighten our subjects. Like, yeah. Contrast. So add a bit of contrast to your subject. They'll make them stand out a little more. Some brightness. Shadows maybe, if you think it could add in more contrast. So you just want to play around. See what, because you want to keep it looking natural. Whites will make make it pop a bit more, so that's always a good idea. And then to add in more contrast, I'm going to drop the blacks. And okay, might go with that for now. Got another one over this side. So let's pretty much do the same. The exposure. Contrast. Highlights. whites to get that pop, get that shine coming off. And let's drop the blacks again to keep that contrast there. Okay. And then as for brushes, so we've just got another brush all over our subjects, and so this is showing where it's affecting. Ticking this box or pressing O will show. And what I want to do is we came in with the filter and we brighten our subjects and added in contrast. And now I've just got a brush over them as well, and I'm just gonna say up the exposure. And quite often when you add in exposure, you want to add in contrast because it will fade your image by bringing up exposure. But we have already done that with the filters, so I don't think we have to worry too much about that. So if I didn't add in so much contrast here, bringing up the exposure sort of like faded our subjects. We want to keep that contrast to help them pop. Just got one more filter here, up on her here, and we'll just up the exposure, or do the whites to make her hair stand out. Yeah, otherwise we're about good. I think that looks really, really similar. And yeah, I'll just keep it there, guys. Thanks for watching. Yeah, that's about it, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you thought. Go follow them, guys, and I'll be linking their presets, remember, down in the description. They'll be the first link there. So if you're after multiple presets that are all in this bright, vibrant look, just like their Instagram, head over there, check them out. Yeah, that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. I am working on a course. Let me know down in the description if you guys would be interested in that, if I created a course over the next few months, because I sort of don't go over each individual section of Lightroom. I want to sort of make a beginner's guide to understanding everything in a the best things to learn from start to finish in Lightroom, all in order, all in a nice course for you guys. So that's about it. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you in the next one.